Well, the World Cup starts today, and who'd have thought 3 years on we're still in dispute about pensions, eh? 3 years of talks, 3 years of talks and more talks, strikes and suspended strikes. Speaking of the World Cup, wouldn't it be nice for Roy if he could pick the likes of Alan Shearer and Gary Lineker? But he won't, and you know why? Because he's too old. That's why sportsmen and women, athletes, don't go on. Many can't even do vets events because we get older. We can't do it. What I'll say to you is that firefighting is no vets event. I know that. You know that. Even the minister's advisors know that. Dr. Tony Williams said. He said so in a report commissioned by the minister, now consigned to a dark and dusty vault somewhere in Westminster. Dr. Williams said in his report, over 90% of male firefighters won't be fit enough to continue to the age of 60. And as for women, not a one, forget it. So, Minister, just who is this firefighter who you say will draw a pension of £19,000 a year? The simple fact is, on the issue of no job, no pension, the Minister cannot or will not deliver. Our members in Scotland are not taking strike action today, and you know why? Because in this and in other areas, the Scottish Fire Minister recognised our arguments. Scottish firefighters, who age in the same way as we do in England and Wales, will not be penalised for retiring at age 55. Today you and the rest of the Fire Brigades Union demands that Brandon Lewis explains why. Explains in a public debate with the FBU General Secretary, Matt Rack. And while the Minister's explaining that, perhaps he could explain why, when engaged with talks with the FBU, the government, his government, has increased our pension contributions. Not once, not twice, but 3 times. Meaning we now pay £4,000 a year minimum for the privilege of working longer and getting less. And I tell you what, the cheeky, last week at the National Joint Council for the Fire Services, they put on the table the staggering pay offer of 1%. So in effect, that means you've taken a pay cut, because if you put that with this year's pension contribution hike, you've lost. And at the moment, as you would understand, we haven't accepted that on your behalf. You will be consulted. And whilst the Minister is explaining that, perhaps he could also explain why last month his government recognised that, contrary to the popular spin, firefighters are not living longer. In fact, we're dying earlier than we were. A fact recognised in changes to the government's own financial workings for firefighter pensions, something we know as the commutation factor. And finally, in the Minister's explanation, hopefully in this public debate, perhaps he could explain about the costings which Gary mentioned. Costings worked out by the FBU and by the government bean counters, which could cater for the retirement of firefighters who can't work past the age of 55. Cater for that retirement with very little, if any, reduction in pension. Costings which the Minister has had in his back pocket since March the 19th, by his own admission. Costings which last night, in an answer to a parliamentary question, the Minister says he has now placed in the House of Commons library. Well, I'll tell you what, Minister, take them out the library, dust them off, turn them into proposals, and let you, the FBU members, decide if they're worth considering. You know as well as I do, firefighters, we're ordinary people. Firefighters are ordinary people. We do an extraordinary job. And like ordinary people, we make provision for our families and our loved ones. Provision by paying into a pension scheme which was guaranteed. You are not about to allow that provision to be taken away from us. Let's get back to the picket lines, stay solid and stay strong.